So I'm Alen Stellian, the Midlife Empowerment Coach. Today I'm thrilled to introduce Kate Vogel. Kate is a certified health coach and postnatal fitness specialist with over 20 years of experience in the health and fitness industry. As a postnatal health and fitness coach, Kate works with women to increase awareness of how they think about themselves and their actions, to discover the possibilities for making positive change, and to create a plan of action based on their individual priorities, values, and goals. She has made it her mission to help other women over 40 achieve their body goals, feel more energetic, and regain their confidence. So, Kate, welcome. I can't wait to hear your fitness advice targeted to women 40 plus and especially new moms. I'm going to turn this over to you now.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ellen, for having me. Your Women on a Mission series, I think it's so great. I've been learning a lot from a lot of the guests that you've had. So I thank you for inviting me to speak today. And if you are here watching and maybe you saw the tag for today's um, topic and you thought, oh, I'm not a new mom over 40, so I'm going to pass by this one, I do encourage you to hang out with us and listen, because although I primarily do work with new moms who are over 40, a lot of what I teach them and a lot of the work that we do really does apply to all women who are 40 and beyond. So hang out with us today and hopefully you'll learn a little bit um, about health and fitness and wellness for women over 40. So there is a lot that we could talk about when I was trying to sort of narrow down some of my main tips and tricks regarding fitness and health and nutrition. There's too many that we could cover in this time. So I really tried to narrow it down. So what I thought I would do is really share with you just a few of the kind of the cornerstones of the work I do as a health and fitness coach with new moms who are over 40 and beyond, really, because I work with some moms who are even closer to 50 as well. So one of the first things that we talk about, and I feel is really important in women's health in general, is our pelvic health. And so when we go through pregnancy and childbirth, we're putting a lot of pressure and a lot of stress through our pelvic organs, through our pelvic muscles, through the pelvic floor. And those pelvic floor muscles really, they basically hold all of your organs in. So they really do play a big part. And they are really stressed throughout pregnancy and childbirth and beyond. And that can come through in different symptoms, such as pelvic floor dysfunction overall. But one of the most common women see, especially women over 40 see, is incontinence, pelvic organ prolapse, diastasis recti, which is the separation of the abdominal muscles, pelvic pain, painful sex. All of these are different symptoms that arise as a result of weakened pelvic floor muscles. And for later in life moms, women who are having babies later, we sort of get this double whammy, because you not only get the weakened pelvic floor from growing and holding a baby and birthing that baby, but also symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction and weakening pelvic floor muscles increase as we get older. So for older moms, we sort of get it from all sides there. And one of the most common symptoms I think that arises from this, that is really prevalent in women, is incontinence. It's estimated that nearly 50% of adult women experience urinary incontinence, which is a lot of women, right? And I think, up until really more recently, it's kind of been sort of like a hush topic, right? It's kind of embarrassing. People don't like to talk about it. And it's also sort of been this idea that women are just sort of supposed to deal with it, right? It's just kind of one of the things that comes along with having a baby. And for a lot of women, it doesn't go away after you have the baby. They're still dealing with leaking, and there's different kinds of incontinence that we could talk about, but basically it boils down to leaking when you sneeze or when you cough or when you're trying to do exercise, things like jumping, or maybe you're trying to do an aerobics class or something, and you experience these symptoms of leaking. And number one, it can be embarrassing. Number two, it can kind of keep you from wanting to do those things because you don't want to experience that. And it can, keep you, it can keep you from doing the things in life that you want to. And we don't talk about it as much because, normally we see the commercials for Depends and, the extra pads that we wear, so you're just kind of supposed to deal with it that way, when really we should be kind of getting down to the root of that issue and working from the inside out, which is why we put such emphasis on strengthening the core and pelvic floor muscles so that we can decrease those symptoms. Because even though it is such a common issue for so many women, that doesn't mean it's normal. And there are ways to treat it and improve it. So, really, whether or not you had a baby 6 months ago, 6 years ago, 16 years ago, if you're still experiencing symptoms like this, and not just incontinence, any type of pelvic floor dysfunction, like I mentioned, um, like I said, whether it was 6 months ago or 16 years ago, it's never too late to address your issue um, and try to make that better. So not only do I work with clients who have these issues and they want to improve them so that they can not only do the regular activities that they want to, but also get back into exercise and reach their health and fitness goals. So I work with them, you know, strengthening those muscles from the inside out. And I also really encourage them to work with a pelvic health physical therapist. And again, this applies to women, whether or not you just had a baby or your baby is now a teenager. It can still be so helpful for you if you're experiencing any of these symptoms to talk with a pelvic health physical therapist who can really better assess your specific problems and help you put a plan together for how you can improve those. Um, and I think one of the things that's really important with this also is that because a lot of women feel like if they have these symptoms, if they're experiencing incontinence and they try to exercise and they leak, and they don't want to do it anymore, and so they kind of have this feeling like their body's broken, pregnancy has broken them, and that's not the case. There is, like I said, there's a way to improve your symptoms, and sometimes people can even see, total the symptoms completely disappear when they do the right work. And so it doesn't mean that exercise and physical activity is off limits if you are experiencing any of these symptoms. It just simply means that we need to find modifications for you to minimize those symptoms. And again, like I said, the importance of really working to strengthen the core and pelvic floor. So that's one of the big things that we talk about and what I work on with my clients. Second thing, kind of with that in mind, talking about the fact that exercise and physical activity doesn't have to be off limits. Another big thing that we talk about is um, really kind of changing your mindset around what exercise is supposed to look like, right? So, a lot of us, especially if you have a weight loss or a fat loss goal or a specific aesthetic goal that you're aspiring to, you feel like exercise has to look a certain way. You have to do a certain amount of exercise. You have to, be sweating buckets at the end for it to be working, right? And I think, especially for older moms who may be experiencing a little bit more exhaustion than you would have maybe if you had a baby when you were in your 20s. You're experiencing a little bit slower recovery process in your body than you would have if you were younger. It can be really discouraging when, you're motivated to exercise, you're motivated to get moving, yet your body can't get to that point where you think it should be for exercising, maybe at that very high intensity and doing those kinds of exercises that you feel like you should be doing in order for it to be working for you. So I think a big piece of this is really kind of shifting your mindset about what exercise has to look like for you. And this also comes into play when we think about the amount of time. A lot of people come to me and they say, I don't have the time and I don't have the energy to incorporate consistent, sustainable exercise, right? Especially for new moms who are older, who maybe have already established a career, so they're working full time. They have small children at home. They're trying to kind of maintain the household, especially now when we're in this pandemic situation where, everything has kind of exploded as far as stress and anxiety and everything that we need to do. Exercise and taking care of ourselves and prioritizing our own self-care is sort of pushed down to the bottom of the list because we think we have so many things to do. How in the world am I going to fit 30 minutes or an hour of physical activity on top of all these other things I have to do, when in reality it could be 10 minutes. So it's kind of reframing that to think, well, I don't have time for 30 minutes of exercise, but can I find 10 minutes of exercise today? And it doesn't necessarily have to be, putting on full workout gear and doing a, high intensity interval session where you're sweating and, you feel exhausted at the end. It could be a 10-minute walk around the block. It could be just maybe doing a short yoga video, something like that that gets your body moving, that makes your body feel good. And you can kind of start those baby steps towards getting consistent with exercise. And it doesn't necessarily have to look in this certain way. And I think another part of that is finding what you enjoy doing. That's, I'm going to talk about strength training in a minute, but that's something I'm a huge proponent of. But another thing I'm a huge proponent of is finding what you enjoy and finding what makes your body feel good. And so one of the great things about being older is that you know yourself so much better. You are much more in tune with your body. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. And so you can really make your exercise and physical activities about things that you enjoy. Um, and that's going to help you stay consistent with them, right? Because then it's going to turn from, I need to do this, I should do this, I have to do this to be healthy, to, oh, I get to exercise. I can't wait to do this today because I know how good my body feels when I'm done. And that's one of the greatest motivators rather than waiting for kind of that goal that's far off of, maybe you want to lose 10 pounds or something that's kind of further down the pike. When you have that kind of instant gratification of that feel good, those endorphins get going when you do something that just really kind of boosts your energy, boosts your mood, then that's going to bring you back again the next day. And that's really, one of the main things that I talk about with my clients is creating something that works for your lifestyle. Because it's one thing to, have these grand ideas of working out 6 days a week and, doing all these strength training sessions and then doing the bike and cardio and doing all these things. But if that doesn't fit into your lifestyle right now, and that's not sustainable for you right now, you're not going to do it. Right. So I would so much rather you find something that fits in your lifestyle right now, something that you enjoy doing, even if that's 10 minutes of walking in nature or walking around your block. If that's something that you can continue doing over the long run, I would much rather see you do that than try to make these, grand plans of what you're going to do and then not be able to sustain those. Um, I don't know if you want to stop and see if anyone has any questions or wants to comment on that before I get into my favorite.
Let's keep going.
Okay. So the third thing, and this is really kind of the backbone of my fitness coaching with my clients, and that is the importance of strength training, especially for women over 40. So I know I just talked about the importance of doing activities that you like, but I think that, especially for us as women 40 and beyond, strength training plays such a huge role in our overall health and wellness. It's not just about those aesthetic goals and getting your body to look a certain way, although it's very effective for that as well. it goes so much further beyond that for us. And there's really two main reasons for that. And the first one is that you need to ensure that your body can continue to function at its best. And so as women, as we get older, we used to lose anywhere from 3 to 5% of our lean muscle mass each decade after 30 years old. So each year we're getting older, our muscle mass is declining. And the reason that is important for us to note is because obviously our muscles are so important not only for strength and helping us do things like lift things, as new moms over 40, we're still lifting toddlers. We may still be lifting car seats in and out of cars, picking up toys and all kinds of things, getting down on the floor, getting back up off the floor a million times. If you're like me, I'm up and down off the floor probably 1,000 times a day. And when you don't have that muscle strength to help you do that, all of those activities feel that much more difficult for you. And also, strong muscles play a role in your mobility, in your agility, in your stability. So, helping you maintain your balance. And so that comes into play just with really mundane everyday activities like taking groceries out of your car and, picking up laundry baskets and things like that. And so that's where strength training plays such a huge role in really just improving everyday life and making everyday activity feel easier, which, this is one of the things for older moms is that one of the main things that they want to do is to be able to keep up with their kids and knowing that, even when our kids are 10, 15 years old, we're going to now be maybe close to 60 and they're still going to want to be really active and we want to be able to keep up with them as well. So maintaining our strength is one of the ways that we're going to be able to do that for years and years to come. And so the second reason that kind of plays along with that, along with our lean muscle mass, as we age, our bone density also starts to decrease as well. So as we get closer to menopause, our estrogen decreases and the risk for developing osteoporosis increases. And so the way that we can kind of combat that is through weight bearing exercises, which strength training is one of those activities. And Helene, you actually had a guest, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Teresa, who was talking about menopause, and she had so many great points that she was speaking about as well. So I was listening to her when she was talking, and so much of that resonated for me, and kind of what I talk about with my clients. But yeah, so in addition to, making smarter nutritional choices, weight bearing exercises like strength training, walking is a great one as well, but strength training is great to help not only strengthen muscle and help you maintain and increase the amount of lean muscle mass you have, but also help strengthen your bones and combat that bone density, osteoporosis. And so those things are all kind of great. And like I mentioned about motivation earlier, you might say, oh, okay, that's still probably 10, maybe 15 years down the line for me. I want my body to look better now. I have these aesthetic goals. I have a fat loss goal. That's another place where strength training comes into play. So a lot of times when people are thinking about losing weight, what they really mean is they want to lose fat, right? We want to lose fat and we want to maintain that muscle mass. And so a lot of times when people either, try a diet or, they try restricting calories, they cut their calories and they think I'm going to do a whole lot of cardio and burn as many calories doing cardio as I can, right? When that's going to, yes, that will probably drop some of your body fat, but it's also going to drop some of your muscle mass as well. And as we already learned that we are already losing a percentage of muscle mass each year as we age. So we don't want that to happen. And strength training is the perfect way to help you kind of change that body composition. So help you lose the body fat, but also increase the muscle mass. So while you may not see a huge change on the scale, you might not see that number changing too much on the scale. You're probably going to feel better in your clothes. You're going to notice that your body looks different because you're changing your body composition, which is really, if you have a fat loss goal, that's really what you want to do, is body recomposition. So decreasing your body fat, increasing your lean muscle mass. And as Teresa touched on a couple of weeks ago, I believe that's how you say her name, Teresa, talking about the hormonal changes that we go through once we reach perimenopause, menopause, and then into post-menopause. We see a change in where our body holds fat and how much fat our body holds, right? So I think most of us would probably agree that it's much harder to lose weight in our 40s and beyond than it was when we were 20, right? We could, in our 20s, we could pretty much eat whatever we wanted and do some exercise and not really see much change. And that's not the case now. I actually talk with a lot of moms who actually have had children in their 20s and now are having children again in their 40s. And they tell me how drastically different the recovery process is and just how their body feels and looks now in their 40s compared to their pregnancies in their 20s. And so that's one of the things that happens when we have these hormonal changes. Not only do we tend to hold on to fat a little bit more, but we hold on to it in different places. So we might, when we're younger, we typically see, and women in general tend to hold their fat in their hips and their thighs. As we get closer to menopause, as those estrogen levels start to drop, we start to see a little bit more of the belly fat, right? And so there is no such thing as spot reduction for fat loss. So as much as I would love to be able to tell my clients that, yes, we can do these specific exercises and get rid of the fat in that area that you want, unfortunately, it just does not work that way. The majority of the biggest factor for where and how you're going to lose weight is genetics. And then the other factors that come into play are obviously your nutrition and then how you're training as well. And so strength training can come into play there, where we can start really targeting specific muscles, working multiple muscle groups at the same time to really get the biggest benefits that we can in a shorter amount of time. And that's why I love strength training so much for women who are older, because like we talked about earlier, we don't have a ton of time. We don't have an hour to spend in the gym. Sometimes we don't even have 30 minutes. Right now, we're not really going to gyms. It's most likely you're doing it at home. But strength training is so great because you can get so much more efficiency in a shorter amount of time. So it's a really great multitasker for women that I like to use with my clients a lot. And so, yeah, so kind of one of the biggest takeaways from that too is not only how important and how many benefits there are from strength training, but also that it is, even if you do have a fat loss goal, you're looking to lose weight, you're looking to kind of change the appearance of your body and how you are feeling in your body right now. It's not so about the number on the scale as it is about changing the body composition and changing how you feel in your body, right? Because the number on the scale is really kind of just one snapshot in time of your body at that moment. Whereas looking at things like taking your measurements and looking at your body fat percentage, and even maybe, taking a before and after shot so you can actually see visually the picture, the changes that you've made, those things can be such better predictors of the changes that your body's going through instead of just looking at one number on the scale. So that could be a whole nother conversation about that. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much all. Like I said, I could talk about this forever, and we could really get down to specifics as far as nutrition and fitness. But, once we get to that, it really depends, it gets specific to each person. And so that's probably one more thing that I'd like to mention, is that there really is no one perfect way to exercise, to include physical activity, to try to lose weight, to meet certain goals. There's no one way that's going to work the same for every person. So if you see people that are doing intermittent fasting, or you see people that are doing keto, or they went vegan, all these different things that people are doing, you have to do high intensity workouts. That could work for some people, but it may not work for you. And so it's really about finding what works for you, that you like to do, that will fit into your lifestyle in a way that you'll be able to be consistent with it and be able to sustain it over the long run.
Wow,
That's
Kate,
my
you've given
soapbox.
us so much great information. Thank you so much. First of all, I had no idea there's such a thing as a pelvic health physical therapist. Like, that's somebody who
Yes.
literally just works on your pelvic and gives you exercises like Kegels and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. So, well, many of them have more than one modality that they work on, but there are many now who really do just specifically work with women on pelvic health, pelvic floor dysfunction. And yeah, it's even now it's more popular, but still many women don't know that that's a thing. Even when I had my son 3.5 years ago, I had no idea. No one told me about it until I started doing my certifications for postnatal fitness. And so I didn't end up going to a pelvic health PT until I was about, I think my son was maybe 2. And I didn't even think that I even had issues because I had a C-section. And that's one of the other things that a lot of women think, well, I had a C-section, so I probably don't have any issues with my pelvic floor. Not the case. I actually turns out I have hypertonic pelvic floor. So my pelvic floor muscles are actually too stressed, which can cause a whole host of issues, from back pain to pelvic pain, all kinds of things. So that's why even if you don't think that you have any symptoms, or there's no outward symptoms, it still is can be really helpful to go talk with one, because you never know what might be going on in there that you just aren't aware of, and they can really help you with that. So yeah, it's really important.
So even if you don't have symptoms like incontinence or, pain during sex or whatever, is it is there a preventative element to doing sort of pelvic floor exercises? As women get older, there's just some natural softening of tissues or whatever, and we kind of need to be doing some things even if we don't have any outward symptoms.
Yeah, so like I said, one of the other factors of weakened pelvic floor muscles is age. So
Right.
as we get older, and not just pelvic floor, but our muscles in general, we're starting to lose muscle mass and they're starting to weaken. We lose elasticity in the muscles as we get older. So yes, it is, even if you don't have any outward symptoms, it can still be super helpful for you. And some of the exercises they don't even really seem like exercises. Like, you're doing them and you're like, this isn't really, I'm just sort of doing some leg movements and stuff. So you could do them in 5 minutes a day and really help strengthen that. And the pelvic floor, and we talk about core and pelvic floor together a lot, because it really isn't just, a lot of times people think about their core and they just think about the six-pack abs, right? Those the abs that you can see in the front. But really, your core is basically like a canister. So you have your diaphragm at the top, you have your core muscles in the front, you have your back muscles, and then you have the pelvic floor at the bottom. And all of those muscles work together. So if any one of those are weakened in any way, it kind of, throws off everything. And obviously your core is so important for for balance, for stability, strength. So it really is important to keep up with this, regardless of whether or not you're having any actual dysfunction, symptoms of dysfunction. So
Yeah. Excellent. And the other thing that regarding the strength training, is muscle also from a metabolism perspective, isn't it I don't know if this is a wise tale, but doesn't muscle burn more calories? So like it's more efficient to having more muscle versus fat, or is that kind of like a not real?
Yes, that is true. So the more muscle you have, the harder your body has, the more energy your body has to use to upkeep that muscle. So that in
Okay.
effect, it means that your body needs to burn more energy, calories, to maintain that. So when you have a higher percentage, that's why the benefit of changing position and reducing body fat, increasing your lean muscle, that's going to increase your metabolism because your body has to work harder just really to maintain, not even to do extra activities and exercise, just to maintain the function of your body. It requires more energy when you have more muscle. So yes, that is true.
Okay, got it. All right.
Yeah.
And then I really liked that you focus on, don't get hung up on, you've got to do 30-minute hit, and high impact and blah, blah. But what works for your lifestyle. And for me, I know taking a walk with a friend outside, weather permitting, is a really sort of nice way to get exercise and still feel like I'm getting fresh air and, like you said, out in nature, getting some social contact, and at the same time getting some steps in, right? And then in the winter, when I'm in Chicago, I know, we have a treadmill. So for me, it's kind of like my treat to watch, like, a reality TV show or something, as a treat while I'm on the treadmill, for instance, or if I'm doing a video, listening to my favorite music or something else to kind of help me get through what, I typically honestly don't look forward to exercising, but I always really enjoy afterwards. So, and then the other thing I was going to talk about is stretching. I mean, for me, there are days when I just don't feel like actually doing any kind of high, aerobic or even strength training exercise. And I'll say, okay, but at the very least, I'll do a stretch video so that I just do something and it makes me feel that, I've gotten my exercise in for the day.
Yeah, for sure. I think, going back to your point about walking, aside from strength training, I would say that walking is probably the best kind of physical activity that you can do. You can do it anywhere. It's great for your cardiovascular system. But I think one of the biggest things with walking, especially if you can get outside and get fresh air, it's such a mood booster and kind of a stress reliever, especially if you get to go out and get some social time with friends. So there's huge benefits all around to that I think if there's nothing else that you can do, like I said, I mean, if you can get out and walk around the block in your neighborhood or something, and it's only 5 minutes, it can be such a game changer, I think. So
love the walking. It's so important. And even, I mean, there's pretty big YouTubers who have like walking videos where you're literally just like walking in place and doing different things while walking. And it's, so even if you can't get outside and you don't have a treadmill, you can walk in place, and you'd be surprised how much they can, sort of have you do while you're walking.
So I actually have, I use the iFit app. So it's kind of similar to Peloton. We have a Nordic track bike, and so we have the iFit app, but I don't have the treadmill, but I use the app. And there are some of the trainers do just walking workouts, and they go to, the last one I did, I think he was in Iceland or something. Wow. And he's, walking around these amazing places. And so I'm on my treadmill, but I'm watching him walking around these great places, and, he's taking up hills and down hills. And it's like, you're on your treadmill in your basement, but you kind of feel like you're in a different place. And, it's just, it can be really great. Cool. So I think,
So Kate, tell us a little bit more about how you work with your clients. I'm assuming you work remotely.
Most of what we do is online. And so typically we do just like this Zoom meetings together. And then For the fitness portion, so I work one-on-one with clients, and typically we do a 90-day coaching program where, we talk about everything from mindset to nutrition to fitness to, habit change, all those kinds of things. And then I also create individualized fitness plans for them. Again, just kind of like what we talked about, making it fit into their life, what works for them, and things like that. And that we actually use this really cool app, so I can upload workouts into the app. We can kind of chat back and forth through there, share videos through there. So that's pretty cool. Again, technology, what we can do now versus what we would have been able to do years ago is pretty crazy. But yeah, so that's really the main way I do, kind of one-off sessions, but I really like to work with people over a longer period of time, because creating those habit changes, especially if you're kind of starting from zero and trying to get to a certain place, it really does take a little bit of time to get there. So I really like to kind of work with someone for a little bit longer so we can create those changes together. So yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you being here
Yeah.
today. I'm going to link Kate's
Yes, thank you
website
so much.
and Facebook group in the comments. So please check it out, and feel free to reach out to Kate with your questions or add comments, and she'll respond. And stay safe, everyone.
Yes, thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.